Welcome to Just a Bet Outside, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank at wafdbank.com. I'm Alyssa Charleston. One more preseason matchup before games start mattering for the Seahawks. The Mariners are surging and chasing a wild card spot. We're also talking Sounders on this episode, but first we start with our roundtable. It's 710 ESPN host and former Seahawks quarterback Jake Heaps, along with Seahawks writer for The Athletic, Michael Sean Dugar.
Arguably the best time of the year for some people. We're about to start the NFL season. College football is already getting going. It is a beautiful thing. And I'm so happy to be joined by Jake Heaps and Michael Sean Dugar. Let's start off with the Seahawks and what we can actually learn from these first two games, because obviously they're coming off a 30-3 loss. A lot of backups playing. Jake, let's start with you. Is there something to actually learn from these games?
Honestly, the thing that I have taken away from these games is, yes, you see the lack of depth overall from the roster. That is something that is concerning. As you talk about in sports, you are as strong as your weakest link. But overall, though, the amount of starters that they are sitting out for the majority of these games, 27 starters, that's a lot. This is unlike anything that Pete Carroll has ever done. It's very unique to him, and I can tell you, quite honestly, he hates this. He is used to playing his starters game one, game two, game three, having this clear ramp-up period. I'm actually very jealous because I was a guy that was just trying to get whatever reps I could when I was trying to make the team, and now the twos and the threes, they have all the reps in the world to be able to showcase what they can do. Obviously, it hasn't been great, but what I have taken away in terms of what you can apply to this season is I'm looking at the schematics. I'm looking at the offensive play calls. I'm looking at the style in which they're calling, the formations, the motions, the type of plays, defensively what they're doing. And when you can just picture and imagine, just close your eyes and imagine Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett in this offense, and Bobby and Jamal and the rest of the crew on defense, there's actually some really cool things that I see, different changes that I see that they're trying out on the field. The problem is it's just not being well executed by the back half of the roster. And what we're seeing in practice is those schematic differences in practice being executed at a high level. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing more of the starters here in this final preseason game.
Yeah, Michael Sean, what about you?
For me, the pass rush I've been looking at, because those are some starters for the most part. Or not starters, it's usually like an 8-man rotation up front with your pass rush. Like you see with LJ Collier. He'll play regular minutes. He'll start at 3 technique, probably. You have Rasheen Green, Kerry Hyder, Daryl Taylor, Alton Robinson. These are all guys who are going to play like, they could all be like the pass rush package in a Week 17 game. Those are essentially starters. So I've been interested to see how they've looked. I think Rasheen Green has looked really good. They're asking him to do a lot of stuff, rush from the edge, rush from the 2-point stance, rush from inside, and they're like cheetah package. That's like they're all their fast dudes, like some teams call it like NASCAR package or whatever on pass rush downs. So like that group has been kind of interesting to watch. Daryl Taylor, just in particular, I've been glued to like every game because I just talked to KJ Wright on Monday, and basically he didn't say this, but it's been made very clear they like Daryl Taylor as a rusher off the edge, which is why they feel comfortable moving on from someone like KJ Wright. Like that's basically it. They like Jordan Brooks' speed. He's their first round pick in 2020. And they like Daryl Taylor flying off the edge. Those two combined, they're like, all right, KJ, love you. Thanks for 10 years. See you next time. All right. So I'm watching those dudes. Like, is that worth it? Because that's one of their biggest moves of the offseason is choosing to walk away from KJ. They got outbid for Shaquille Griffin, and you can like argue whether they should have gave him 40 mil or whatever. But the KJ thing is like, man, he's sitting up here in Renton chilling, just waiting after having a really good year. So looking at Daryl, looking at Alton, guys who are going to be expected to be part of like a pass rush by committee. This isn't a team that's probably going to have a Pro Bowl defensive end, I don't think, but they might have, 4, 5, 6 guys who have anywhere from 4 to 7 sacks. So that group, whether they're going against Denver starters or the Raiders backups or the Chargers backups this weekend, I'm just trying to see if they can get some pressure on the QB.
I remember Kerry Hyder Jr. saying that he really wanted to come at them in waves. Like he's used to that kind of style with pass rushing. And it may not be one dude that has, 12, 15 sacks, that it could be, like you said, by committee. And it's going to be tough for any defensive end to do that, because Jamal Adams is out here saying that he wants to get 12 and a half sacks this year. What? I don't know.
Of course he is.
He's on track, I guess, last year in terms of how many games he missed. I'm really also curious to see the offense. Is there any concern? I feel like there's going to be growing pains no matter what in that first game against Indianapolis, but Russell Wilson, depending on how much, if he plays this Saturday for a series or two, this offense, Tyler Lockett may be coming back from injury. How slow of a start do you expect to see out of this offense in the up-tempo that they've been talking about all preseason long? Jake?
I think there'll be some kinks, obviously, and they won't be their full version of themselves until the season progresses. That's just naturally how things go in the NFL in general, but especially with a new offense. However, I do believe and have a lot of confidence that this offense can be a very functional, a very effective offense from the get-go, simply because when you reference back to old systems or new systems, and particularly Brian Schottenheimer and Seahawks history in 2018, well, Brian Schottenheimer was coming here to basically be the new captain of the same ship. It was the same offense. Now, hey, Brian Schottenheimer, find your own way to make your own stamp on this thing. And the first 2 weeks of the season, they went 0-2, and the offense looked very poor. Doug Baldwin wasn't out there. They tried to go away from the identity of why Pete Carroll even brought Brian Schottenheimer there to begin with. This time around, it's unique because you have Shane Waldron, who knows exactly who he is and knows exactly the system that he wants to run and implement. And so there's not going to be that in-between phase of what they're going to be or what they want to be. It's going to be more of the execution of that plan. And I think that when you're looking at Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, I really believe that they're going to be able to be explosive from the get-go. Now, the one question mark to all of this, and I will change my opinion completely, is if left tackle Dwayne Brown is out there on the field or not. That is the biggest question heading into week one at this point since Jamal Adams got his deal done. And that will greatly determine what they're going to be able to do offensively, in my opinion. You just look at what some of the things that they're doing in the preseason. They're calling new offensive plays. They flashed it just a little bit of a tease of the tempo that they will run. But this offense is going to be in the attack mentality that I think Russell Wilson has always wanted in his past 10 seasons, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I've been kind of looking at how they move around DK. When you look at like his where all his big plays came from, his first year in 2019, they were basically all to Russ's left outside the numbers. I think all of his 7 touchdowns might have come from there, except for maybe one. Like it was very like he lined up other places, but he was only effective essentially from one spot. And that evolved a little bit in 2020, though. I mean, he spilled the beans on the podcast with Brandon Marshall. It was like teams figured us out. Gerald Everett actually spilled the beans too in training camp in like a matter of fact way. He was like, yeah, they got real predictable last year. I'm here to fix that, essentially. And I was like, whoa, I mean, you're not wrong, but wow, that was pretty bold. Like it seems like in 2020, a lot of things went wrong in the second half, but a lot of it seems to be, yeah, teams are like, look, Tyler's going to do this. DK is going to do this. We'll figure out how to stop that. I mean, one way to combat that without like relying on solely on Freddie or Gerald or Will Dissly or whatever is to move your guys around. Like there's been some snaps, in practice where it's like, all right, here's trips to the right and DK's like in, tights. Like how are you supposed to stop that when you're giving a guy like DK a two-way go against some slot guy who weighs 190 pounds, right? Like, and then on the next snap, maybe you move him all the way to the far right or far left or whatever, put him in motion. Like, I think Shane's been really creative with that. At least I'm gonna credit that to Shane so far, because Tyler's always moved. Guys like Freddie are gonna always move or whatever, but like DK's your guy. He's your monster. He's the one that's gonna strike fear. And the other team secondary just asked Darius Slay after that Eagles game, or Emmanuel Mosley after that Niners game. So like how he's being used, I can't wait to see it if they do debut some of it in the preseason this Saturday against the Chargers. But even if they don't, what I've seen in practice leads me to believe like Shane's prepared for teams adjusting to their adjustments, which I think by week 17 or whatever, like they didn't have that. By then, everyone knew what the adjustment was going to be, and the defenses knew how to stop it, and they didn't have a counterpunch. It looks like Shane is setting up to have a counterpunch.
And I like that Gerald Everett was honest about it. I think that to address that truth, like they did become predictable in that second half of the season. Teams knew how to stop them. If there is truth in that locker room, that's only gonna make them better. I feel like if there's, no one's afraid to give it to them straight. Okay, let's get to Mariners real quick. They are really teasing us again at the end of the season. They're giving us hope throughout August, which we haven't been used to in the last couple of years. Jake, we'll start with you. Who has been key, you think, in keeping these hopes alive this long? And what has to happen for them to be playing meaningful baseball in September?
My goodness, this team doesn't make a lot of sense when it comes to just the normal factors of how you win baseball games. But there's a couple things that are working for them here. Number one, Ty France has emerged as one of the best hitters in all of baseball right now. Since the All-Star break, there actually has been no one better than Ty France. He's finding his power that we all knew he had. So he's been a huge, huge factor for this lineup that has struggled as a whole. The second thing is that they continue to play really good defense. Their starting pitching, for the most part, has been really solid since the trade deadline, and their bullpen has been nails. Curtis Rogers, my producer of my show, and I have been battling over who's the MVP. He says Paul Sewald. I say Ty France. But honestly, this group has been so well put together. And the biggest factor is that if they can keep it within reach, if the Mariners can keep it within 1 to 2 runs at the end of games, they're in it. And the other team knows it, and they fear the Mariners in those situations. That's the unique part. That's the fun part, is that you get in those situations and you believe, the clubhouse believes, they are fully bought into the underdog mentality. It's partially because they're young and naive. They don't know any better. And then the other part is they've done it so many times this year that they have the utmost confidence in themselves. And that is what you need with 38 games left in the season as you're playing meaningful baseball. So if they can keep it within reach, this team has got every shot imaginable to be able to pull off the improbable.
I was actually reading I think I was reading a Larry Stone column this morning in the Seattle Times, and he made a point that reminded me of some work I was doing on cornerbacks. Like cornerbacks have to really have a short memory. Like if you give up a play, you got to be like, all right, whatever, next play. It is what it is. And it seemed like that's like the characteristic of this Mariners team. Like even just looking at the whole season's kind of been like that. They've been knocked down. And it seems like it's going to be over. How many times we felt like, here we go again, 4th of July or Memorial Day, Mariners are relevant. This game's under 500 or whatever. They just keep bouncing back. I think I always have underestimated perhaps chemistry in baseball. Maybe that's because I'm not a diehard baseball guy, and the guys on the field are maybe not like, especially on offense, is tied to each other as like a football team is on offense. You have to play alone, but like following this team, it does seem like that matters. Like independent of like how pissed everyone was at the Graveman trade, like clearly chemistry mattered there, but like Jake was mentioning, guys like believe. Like if they get smoked like 13-1 or something like that, the next game, everyone in the clubhouse is like, you know what? We got this. We got the next one and the next one and the next one. And I think that's a characteristic you can't necessarily quantify with numbers, and there's a gazillion of them in baseball. But I think something like that is probably why Scott Service, every time he does a press conference after the game, he talks about how much fun these guys are having and how great the group is. Like, it's not a statistical thing I'm sure he's referencing. It's more like these dudes believe in each other, and they're going to need that because knowing the Mariners, they're going to have another setback here in these final 30 or so games. And their ability to bounce back from it will determine whether they're playing postseason baseball for the first time in forever.
Yeah, and we kind of expect that. We mentally prepare for it, but they have been surprising us. And Scott Service brought up maybe the most important analytical stat of the season, and it's fun differential. I literally rolled my eyes so hard.
I love that.
It was incredible, but I was laughing.
Awesome.
They're losing the run differential, but we're winning the fun differential, I think, by about 90. I'm like, wow, where'd you get that number, first of all? And incredible.
Right. Hey, Alyssa, can I say one thing on that? When it comes to Scott Service, and we're talking about the improbable and what they've been able to do, and Michael Sean talks about their ability to go from one game to the next, that has everything to do with leadership. And if you think about it, Scott Service is going into the end of the season right now without a contract extension. Right now, he's not the manager after this year to this point. I think that's a huge mistake. They should be extending Scott Service. What they've been able to do, the job that he's been able to do with this team up to this point, he deserves a lot of talk about AL Manager of the Year. He has earned it. He has deserved it. If I don't hear a lot of talk around Major League Baseball about him being a part of that conversation, I think the award is a joke, because what he has done with this group that no one expected much from, he is doing an outstanding job, and it's part of that. The fun differential, just the approach. It's very different from what you see in managers in baseball today. He has done an outstanding job of getting these young guys to believe in themselves.
Great point, and I'm excited to see where it takes them as we hit the end of the season. They're chasing the wild card. We'll see what happens. Last question for me, Michael Jean. You've been talking about a media basketball team for a while. I don't think it's going to happen, the game against the Seahawks actual players this year, but you're coach. So what position are you? Jake, you're automatically recruited. You're an elite athlete. We need you. What positions is Jake playing? What do you have me at?
Well, after your promo video that you guys dropped, you're like our starting shooting guard, man. We really took a hit losing Joe Fan in the market and losing Ben Arthur, who's now at the Tennessean. And we took a hit, so we need you. We need Jake. We need Stacy, Jake's co-host. We need her. We need her energy. She's our Luke Wilson.
We do.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need Stacy on the team.
We need her energy. We need her juice.
She could be assistant coach next to you on the bench, but I don't know if we need a 5'2"
you know who
athlete out there.
We have my guy Chris Kidd, who co-hosts the podcast. Chris is nice, man. It's like Chris is probably like 5'5", and when I met him, we were both 13, and he was like dunking in the gym at Lakeside High School when we met, going into from 8th grade to 9th grade. Like, the dude has crazy athleticism. Tim Booth. I believe in Tim. Tim's got that like underrated strength. He's built like a kind of a stocky, strong dude. Yeah. Adam Jude can ball too. I balled with him before. I believe in us, man. I've played against some of the Seahawks. I know Jake has seen these guys at Russell Wilson Palace, ball out down there in California. I'm not scared. Only person I'm a little worried about is Bobby. Everyone else, let's do it.
Bobby can mess around and kill someone on the court.
Yeah, he's very good. He's very good.
All right, can't wait for it. We'll have the team assemble soon. Stacy is going to be a lockdown defender. Just let her know right now. We need that. Jake,
I'll tell her you said it, and she'll be pumped. She'll be pumped.
All about it. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate it, and we'll see you out at Seahawks soon.
Watch out, we're coming to a court near you soon. Well, the Seattle Sounders already broke a franchise record by starting the season unbeaten through 13 games. They battled through more injuries to key players than any other season in that time frame. Now, they're getting a resurgence with those players getting back onto the pitch. And just 5 games into the season, they lost their franchise goalkeeper. Stefan Frei had knee surgery after an injury against San Jose. Complications with a blood clot then put his return date out of his control. He traveled for the first road trip last week since that injury and told me he is seeing the light at the end of the injury tunnel.
Very, very close. I mean, it's been a bit of a strange one because there's the injury on one side, which I'm trying to, heal and get better. But blood clots and blood thinners is a whole different ball game. So there's the protocols you have to adhere to. Usually when you have an injury, you try to do everything you can to come back faster, quicker, and prove the doctors wrong and make them feel like you're superhuman. But with that protocol, there's no wiggle room. It's just, it is what it is. So it's been a strange one when it comes to that, but I've been trying to take advantage of the time in the gym, out on the field, and try to come back stronger, faster.
And we see you're pretty active on Twitter when big things happen, when you're watching from home. What is your communication level like with your teammates? Do you text them? Do you FaceTime with them? Like, how do you kind of stay in the loop as a captain?
Well, we have our private WhatsApp groups. We have the ones with the coaches and then the one where it's just the players. But yeah, I mean, that's such a joy to see for someone to score a ridiculous goal.
And Brad Smith uses his head.
It's not just the goal, it's all the steps that had to lead to that, the confidence. Where did he find the confidence to even try that? Where did he find the technique to try that, And it's just a joy to see that in the end. And then, yeah, you send a little meme or a little GIF, and I think people know that you're happy for them.
That finish right there, see the little gap.
From where you've stood this season, obviously you've been out since May. What do you think of this team and everything they've accomplished, despite everything that's happened to them injury-wise and international call-ups?
I think it's extremely exciting to be part of this team. whether it's as a fan or as a player or you name it. You have to make experiences in the current year to feel whether this team now has what it takes. And so you need to have the good experiences, but you also need to make the bad experiences. You know, we've had a couple of spells where we had to ask questions of ourselves, you know, had to go a little deeper in the roster, and I think we've answered a lot of questions there, and that's good for ourselves, because when it's do or die in the playoffs and you're against the fence, those are the experiences you look back, and those are the ones that will help you climb out of the hole and be successful. So, and we're not even talking about the 13 undefeated run in the beginning of the season. I mean, that's a huge, huge accomplishment.
And a new MLS record to start the season. The Sounders are unbeaten in 13.
If you think that you can be successful, especially in the long run, with 11, 12, 13, 14 guys, it's not going to happen. You need 18, you need 26. Whether you are number 25 or you're number 2 or 3, you are part of the team, and it doesn't matter whether you're 15 or you're 35. I'm 35. I'm the 35-year-old one. But you're just as important to the team.
Age is wisdom.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're proud of that. Another big part of that 13 unbeaten is Steph Cleveland. Let's talk about him, what you've seen from him, what he does really well, and how you've worked with him to help him improve.
First and foremost, I'd have to give a lot of props to Tom Dutra, because I've had really good keeper coaches throughout my career, but one of the biggest things with him is he really looks at it as a squad. And so there's never a neglect where it's like, okay, this guy's number 1 and the other 2 are just whatever, we'll figure it out. You go through growth together. It's just a matter of someone like Cleveland coming through and showing what he's capable of doing. You know, I mean, those saves he makes in the beginning of the game, we're talking about our goal scorers, but if he doesn't make those saves, then maybe we're down 2-0, down 3-1, who knows? It's a different game at that point. So I love his mentality.
And obviously it's easy to get overexcited about that Portland win or the other wins that you have guys coming back, all the talent offensively, attacking-wise. What do you think the ceiling is for this team, and how wonderful was it to watch that Portland game?
Oh, it's huge. That's the biggest one. You know, if you can pull that off down in Portland convincingly with 6, I mean, that's a huge result. And really excited to see what the future holds for the remainder of the season and what we can achieve.
Last question from me. Funniest guy on the team here?
Chad Marshall. He's not with the team anymore. I miss that guy. There's nobody that's going to come close to that. You know, I think since we've lost him, we've had to kind of share the responsibility of funniness a little bit. Who seems to sometimes kind of be in his own planet, and that's hilarious just to see. Brad Smith, nobody understands him, so that's hilarious. I'm the old fart in the team, so we kind of share the responsibility, but we always try to have a good time, and obviously when you're getting good results, spirits are high and everybody's joking with each other, and that's when you love to be part of a squad like that.
And they are looking better than ever. The Sounders are at the top of the Western Conference with a 3-point lead over Kansas City right now. The first ever doubleheader with the OL Reign is this Sunday at Lumen Field. The women play at 4:30, and you can use the same ticket to get into the Sounders FC game at 7:30, and both teams play Portland. That's going to do it for us and Just a Bit Outside this week. Big thanks to Jake Heaps, Michael Sean Dugar, Stefan Frei, plus our incredible production crew. I'm Alyssa Charleston. We'll see you in a couple weeks.